Mary and the Witch's Flower, Kingsman the Golden Circle, SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and Apollo 13. That's all coming up next on the Movie Burner blog rundown. And joining us as always is John, and first up John, we're going to talk about this film from 2017 that was reviewed by our very own Stephen Wilkins, Mary and the Witch's Flower from 2017.
Yes, this is a Japanese animated film. I believe it's an anime style film. It's directed by Hiromasa Yonebayashi and Giles New as well. It's written by Mary Stewart based on the novel The Little Broomstick, and it's also written by Riko Sakaguchi, the screenplay that is. It stars Hana Tsukisaki, Ryunosuke Kamiki, Yuki Amami, Ruby Barnhill, Kate Winslet, Jim Broadbent and Ewan Bremner. So we kind of discussed this before we came on, Stephen. I think it's clear this is like a split story going on here. We've got a Japanese version and we've got an English version, and also the likes of Kate Winslet and Jim Broadbent are doing the English version, whilst the likes of Hana Tsukisaki and stuff are doing the Japanese version. I digress though, it's all about a little kid basically happening upon this strange flower, magical flower that grants her powers. She then grabs a broomstick, heads up to the clouds and discovers a school of magic where apparently because she's a redhead she excels in this magical school. It sounds very intriguing, something I would maybe be interested in from a story standpoint. As someone that's not watched a lot of anime though, or that style of film, I don't know if it's something I'd connect with on a visual standpoint, but certainly seems to be getting split reviews. You go into Rotten Tomatoes, very impressive. Critical response 87 from the critics, 85 from top critics, 72% from the audience. But then you go into IMDb and look at some of the reviews, and it's clear that there's a lot of people don't like it, and I think this is down to some thing with the studios. Studio Ponox, a new studio that produced and made this film. And apparently they take a lot of inspiration from another studio, Studio Ghibli, who have done 30 plus, nearly 40 of these styles of films. And a lot of these fans are butthurt and they don't like the way they're doing it. They don't think it's a patch on the original film. So I don't know anything about it, Stephen.
Yeah, John, Mary Tomajo no Hana is the original title for this movie, and you're right, it's there's two versions of this. There's the English version and the Japanese version. The Japanese version is, as you said, directed by Hiromasa Yonebayashi,
yes.
And the English version is directed by Giles New, who I'm not familiar with. I was checking it back on his profile. This is his first directorial movie, and it's very interesting to see. I've got to say, I do like the style of this animated. I think this is where this new Star Wars animated show it's that kind of style, you know, and you can clearly see there's a lot of I don't know if you remember an animated television series, John. It might have been before your time. It was the Mysterious Cities of Gold. It was a long running television animated show for kids, and it was that kind of style. It was a great, it was a great series. But I digress. As you said, this is based on a novel, The Little Broomstick. Did you say, John?
Yes.
And it's one of those stories. I think you can see it's took inspiration from different things. This book, I think, was out in the early 70s, to be fair. So I think a lot of the storytelling in this is very clever. It's very familiar as well. The storytelling and this little girl going to the woods, finding these magical powers, and then the adventure begins. We've seen it before. We see it in a lot of Disney films. And it's a great cast as well, as you said, John. More from the English point of view. I'm not, pardon my ignorance, but I'm not very familiar with the Japanese cast. But when you look at the likes of Ruby Barnhill in there, Kate Winslet, Jim Broadbent, our very own Ewan Bremner in there as well, doing some voice acting as well. I didn't know he did voice work, but it's good to see that. And it's a good review as well from Stephen. He gives a insightful background to the story, and also gives his view on his experience as well watching this movie. Yeah,
I mean, as I did say, Stephen, it's not something I would have ever thought that I would go and watch, because it's not my thing, anime. It's a very distinct taste. But certainly, as you did say, it's a decent little review, very succinct and straight to the point, got the point home. And it's something I'd maybe look into watching if it came onto something like Netflix. Certainly it seems like the animation is the strong point here. You look at the background and it's very realistic, and you've got the more cartoony characters in front of it all. Very cool. I'm reading another review here, and the guy says the only thing missing is a Joe Hisaishi scoring. apparently he's never worked with this director before, so hey, you can't have everything in life. But yeah, I mean, it looks okay. Story's apparently very decent. The animation's apparently excellent as well, but not on a patch of that other studio I mentioned. The attention to detail went there, but
it doesn't really delve into the period of time this takes place in, really, does it, John? I don't know if that's just down to the style of the film and the animation. It certainly doesn't really suggest it's modern times or olden times for that matter.
I think it's probably a mix of period and just modern day stuff. I think that's what these films tend to do. But the final thing I'll say on this, Stephen, is that again it's this interesting concept of Japanese and Far East cultures or filmmakers taking something from the West. I believe this is based on a Western story, The Little Broomstick, and I recall seeing something in the news maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month back. I might even have been further back than that again, I don't know, but it was Japanese tourists that came to a small place in England or Wales, and they'd visited a cottage. They then went back home and created a whole animated series or film about it, and it transformed this cottage into a huge tourist attraction for all the people from Japan and stuff like that. So again, this looks like a similar thing where they're taking Western stories and they're mixing it with the Far East anime style, and it's apparently done to very good fashion.
Yeah, we're going to move on, John, to our second review of the show, and that's one that came in from Darren. This is 2017's Kingsman, The Golden Circle. This is the sequel to the original movie, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I didn't ever actually get around to seeing this one, John. And it wasn't based on did get really panned on its release. This is directed by Matthew Vaughn and written by Jane Goldman and Matthew Vaughn as well. They're a great team, both of them. They worked on several projects, including one of my favourite films, Kick-Ass.
Yes.
And it stars Taron Egerton, Colin Firth and Mark Strong.
Yes, I've got to be honest with you, Stephen, I haven't seen it either, but by all accounts it's not a patch on the original film, which was amazing. It had a great blend of violence and humour and stuff like that. And it was a kind of I believe this is based on a comic book, isn't it? Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah, it's based on a comic book. And it's all about this young guy getting thrust into the world of espionage and becoming embroiled in the world of secret organisations and banding together to defeat enemies and antagonistic people. I don't know what this one's about. As I said, I didn't go and watch it because I did hear it was getting panned. I don't usually allow that to influence my judgment on whether I'm going to see a film or not, but certainly it did with this one because there was so many people saying it was utter crap. You look at the ratings though, 6.8 on IMDb out of 10, over 200,000 reviews. Critically, it's getting a 53% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a 65% audience score, so that would kind of point to it being a fairly average experience all round. But although the people on IMDb certainly seem to be getting more out of it than most, Darren again shares these sentiments. He's essentially booted it right in the stones because he says it's not a good film.
Yeah, Darren, he says he's not one of the Matthew Vaughn's biggest fans either. I kind of get what he's saying here in regards to there is a lot of high energy and highly stylised, over the top action in these type of films, and in these films that should be the case anyway, because that's what this genre is all about. But I can see where Darren's coming from. You see it a lot in Kick-Ass as well. Not so much in First Class. I'm pretty sure Matthew Vaughn did First Class, the X-Men film, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and also 2007 Stardust, which I thought was a decent film. There is a bit of fanboyish, following for Matthew Vaughn, and I get what Darren's trying to say here. But I think he is a good director in my book. I thoroughly enjoyed Layer Cake. I think that was one of the first ones I did as well. But it's really just about that style. Sometimes it comes off a little bit pretentious at times, depending on the situation, I suppose. But certainly in the original Kingsman film, it was well placed. Yes,
he says in his review, I'm actually just reading through it again just now, Stephen, that he can't lie, the style is very cool, it's loud, and it does provide the over-the-top action you would expect. And yes, it's a sequel, and it's more of everything. So that sounds like just about every other sequel I've ever seen in my entire life, Stephen, where they try to take all the concepts you liked from the original and expand it out into a bigger, better story. Doesn't seem like it's worked this time. He does compare Matthew Vaughn to the British Michael Bay, which he may have a point about. The sound design, he says, is great and the stunts are cool. You'd expect that from this film. I do like Taron Egerton, the guy that plays Eggsy in it, the main man. And I know that other guy, I don't really like Colin Firth in there. I don't hate him as a person, but just as an actor, he's not for me. kind of puts me off going to watch films. Certainly did enjoy him in the first one though, so it wasn't my reason for returning to not return to see this. But all in all, I can't really add much more because I haven't seen the film myself. I may get round to watching it at some point in the future, although if Darren's review and the very mixed bag of other reviews is anything to go by, then it's perhaps maybe not going to happen anytime soon. But he says that this film wants to be cheesy B-movie fun, but there's too much money on the screen and the actors are way too good, wasted, but still too good for it to work. So it's no Kung Fury.
Yeah, it certainly isn't, John. But his final thoughts are it's mindless, big budget popcorn movie. If that's what you're looking for, then that's what you'll get, but it's not as good or even fun popcorn movie. That's fair enough, Darren. You know, as I said,
Stephen, is it as good as the Meg? That's what I want to know. That's
well,
the real question.
Yeah, who knows? But I think I'll have to watch this to compare both. But I don't think it's a film that I want to really go. It took me a long time actually to see the original one. I didn't see it in its original release. It was just really word of mouth. I think it was once I realised who was directing the film, it took my fancy, and I did enjoy the first one. Was there a purpose for a sequel? Perhaps because the first one was a surprisingly successful movie, and that's normally the case. They've got justification for following that on with a sequel. This time it just didn't work, and I don't think it's down to the cast. I don't think it's down to the director as as far as his credentials go. It's really just the writing this time is not been in par with the original.
Yeah, well, certainly it doesn't seem to have damaged the franchise's chances of getting a third film and potentially a final film, as we did say on Box Office Chat. I don't remember what it was we were talking about. It might not even have been Box Office Chat, I may be tripping, but they do like to do trilogies, so I'm sure it will end up being a trilogy and we'll close out the Kingsman franchise and we'll go out in a high. Maybe it'll be better than that one, maybe it won't. Ain't going to lie though, Steve, my final thoughts on this film are that it was around about that time last year where reviews were coming in thick and fast and we didn't have time to go and watch films that we hadn't been reviewing. I had to watch a film, review it, and then move on to another film that hadn't been reviewed, so I didn't get a chance to go and see it. That was one of the whole multitude of reasons why this film wasn't watched, but I digress. We're moving on to the third film in this week's Movie Burner Blog Rundown, and it's the SpongeBob SquarePants movie from all the way back in 2004. This is directed by Stephen Hillenburg, Mark Osborne, and it's also written by Stephen Hillenburg. It stars Jeffrey Tambor, Roger Bumpass, Caroline Lawrence, and I believe it's also got the likes of Alec Baldwin and stuff like that in there. And as you'll tell me next, Stephen Clancy Brown, who's a firm favourite in some circles.
Yeah, John, the actual television series came out in 1999.
Yeah, I was a fan of it, yeah.
I was 23 at the time. I was probably a little bit too old to be watching kids' television shows. That was my ignorance at the time anyway. It was actually my daughter who turned my attention to the movie a few months ago, and I hadn't seen it. This has been out since 2004, and it was a particular scene, as you said, involving Clancy Brown playing Mr. Krabs. It's one of the funniest scenes in it. I mentioned it in my review in regards to the character, and he's all about the money, and it's a very funny scene.
Money?
And he's just that demented face that Mr. Krabs has got when he says it as well. It's very Simpson-esque. One of the things I enjoyed about this movie was that Hillenburg and Osborne manage to... They have almost a joke every 20 seconds throughout the story, and it never takes you out the story in any way, which is a real knack in this day and age. The other thing that I like about it is that they don't try and portray it as a movie. They don't really make a big deal of it. It's really maybe about 3 or 4 episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants stuck together in one big adventure. This is something I think that the Simpsons movie suffered. They wanted to go bigger and bolder, and some of the look in the Simpsons movie didn't really remind you of the television series, which was, I think at that point, out for a good 20 years at that point. And that's how that failed. The Simpsons movie came out after this film, of course. There's some sad scenes in it as well. There is a moment where SpongeBob and Patrick, his little friend, are dehydrating because they're out of the water, and it looks like they're going to die. and it's quite an emotional scene. It's sad the way it's done. They're holding hands, and a little tear comes down for either eyes and joins together as it slides down this kind of desk, and it forms a heart shape. And it's quite a nice scene, and this precursors the incinerator scene you see in Toy Story 3, which was quite, if people are talking about animated emotional scenes, they always refer to Toy Story 3. Well, this one's just as impactful as that, and this was in 2004. The voice acting as well, as you said, John, you've got surprisingly you've got Scarlett Johansson, Alec Baldwin, David Hasselhoff comes in and plays David Hasselhoff,
as he does in every film.
And you've got I think it's Bill Fagerbeck, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I remember him in a television series called The Coach. He's got such a distinctive voice. He voices Patrick the starfish in this. It's a great character, very funny. Tom Kenny as well with SpongeBob SquarePants. You can't not mention this guy. He's still doing this character to this day, and he still sounds as youthful as he did 20 years ago doing this. Yeah. He's got the I think I described it as the sprightly zing and flair of this voice, and the ever energetic character that is SpongeBob SquarePants. And it's a thoroughly enjoyable film. It took me by surprise. I didn't think it would be my cup of tea. A lot of the humour is relevant to adults that will go over the head of children. It's one of those ones. So in this case, when I did this review, I did say that it was not just a kids' film, it's more a family film, and there's a lot of laughs in there, and it's a well-written film.
Yeah, I've not got much more to add to that one, Stephen. You've hit the nail on the head there. Because frankly, this is another one that I haven't seen. I did grow up. I would have been around about 10 when the series started up in 99. And I do recall watching it and being a big fan of it. It was very unique, the way they did it. The blend of humour, and obviously, as you did say, as you get older you do notice the adult themes underneath, and that's a great thing that you really need to harness in these sort of genres. We've seen it with the likes of Disney Pixar, and certainly I'm sure it'll be in here. Absolutely positive about and just having the likes of Clancy Brown in there. The guy's a great voice actor. We've seen him pop up in the DC animated films you've been reviewing as of late. Got a very distinctive voice, and as you did say, I did see that scene. Money. I can't do it either. Money. It was very funny. It was very funny. And yeah, it's just great to see Tom Kenny, as you did say. Well, I don't know if he's still doing it now, Stephen, but all the way back then in 2004, maintaining his love. He's still doing it to this day. There you go. And you're right, you're absolutely right. We were talking about this with the Thomas the Tank Engine film about a month back in the box office, where you take a short little 10, 15, 20 minute concept episodic series, and you try and explode it up into maybe an hour, 2 hour long film. I don't think this is a 2 hour long film. I've not looked at the running time. It's an hour and 27 minutes. So it's a very hard thing to do, and I'm very pleased to see they've actually managed to pull it off, because it's part of my childhood. So I may go and watch this one for sentimental and nostalgic reasons, Stephen.
Well, listen, John, if you know Chloe Mia, she will make sure you watch this at some point. She loves it. She loves the television series as well. She's only 5.5, and she enjoys the television series, which is nearly 20 years old now. I think she's just caught it on Netflix. I think the whole series is on that. I think there's new episodes coming out as well on Netflix. It's just one of those movies that I think the whole family will enjoy. And we're going to move on, John, to the final film in this week's Movie Burner Blog Rundown. This is from 1995, directed by Ron Howard, starring Tom Hanks, Bill Paxton, Kevin Bacon, and a whole host of stars. It's Apollo 13.
Yes, this is an absolute classic for me anyway, Stephen. One of my favourite Tom Hanks films. He said a whole host of amazing films is Tom Hanks, but this is one of my favourites. Just again for what I said previously, sentimental and nostalgic reasons. I grew up watching this film. I thought it was a fantastic film. I love Ron Howard as a director. Also, he's done the likes of Willow and a whole host of other amazing films, and this is certainly one of those. It's also about NASA devising a strategy to return Apollo 13 to Earth safely after the spacecraft undergoes massive internal damage, putting the lives of the 3 astronauts on board in jeopardy. But more specifically, it focuses on the character of Jim Lovell. He's the main man, played by the aforementioned Tom Hanks, and it's really his desire, all about his desire to step on the moon. He was a man that was involved in a whole host of NASA missions, including the Apollo and the Gemini programs. And it focuses on his desire. He gets one more chance. I think he gets brought forward. There's issues with the original Apollo 13 crew. He gets his chance to go in Obviously, the character played by Gary Sinise, Ken Mattingly, one of the original three that was going on the mission, contracts measles just before they're going, and Jim Lovell kicks up a stink. He wants him to be a part of the mission, but he gets told you either like it or lump it. You go with the replacement, played by Kevin Bacon, Jack Swigert, or you get pushed back to one of the later Apollo missions. So off they go, and of course when they lift off from the Earth, there's an explosion in one of the oxygen compartments, and this causes a massive amount of damage. You don't discover this until later on, and then it really does, it just focuses on the tension and the frenetic attempts of the NASA officials to try and concoct a plan. And at one point there's an absolute genius moment, which I do go into in my review, where they try to fit basically essentially a square peg in a round hole, and it's just amazing seeing all of these brilliant minds trying to concoct a plan with all the things that are on board the craft and get these guys back home. I do say in my review as well, one of my favourite things about this now, in my later years, getting back and reading about this film, just the amazing work that Ron Howard and just the whole crew and the production and stuff did in making this a really authentic recreation of that mission. I read an amazing thing where a NASA official who worked in the actual control room was leaving set after hours of work during the day, and he was trying to walk into an elevator because such was the detail. He thought it was his actual work. He remembered the layout and he thought he was still there. So just things like that, they're going up into low orbit flight and then having like 20 seconds of zero gravity so they could film the space shots. It's just amazing attention to detail by all involved. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I thought it was incredible performances from primarily the leading quartet characters of Jim Lovell, Fred Hayes, Jack Swigert and Ken Mattingly, also played by Gary Sinise, Kevin Bacon, Bill Paxton and Tom Hanks. What a leading quartet. But over and above that, you've got the brilliant performance of Ed Harris as Gene Kranz, obviously the mission controller in the Apollo 13 mission, and then obviously you've got the wife, Marilyn Lovell, played by Kathleen Quinlan. Just incredible performances throughout this film, and it's one of my favourites from the 1990s. Yeah,
John, you hit the nail on the head there with the authenticity. That was one of the things that struck myself when I first saw this movie back in 1995. You've got to remember, this was a run of successful films relating to Tom Hanks. It just seemed to have struck gold at this period. In 1993, the successful Philadelphia, 94 Forrest Gump, and then this one. I always look at these as a trilogy of Hanks films. Clint Howard's in there as well, John. I don't know if you remember him being in this.
Every single Ron Howard film in existence. Yeah,
he's always the little chap in the control room, isn't he? I think he played a similar role in Austin Powers as well. This actually won 2 Academy Awards for Best Sound and Best Film Editing. And you can see why. It's such a beautifully pieced together work. And
I can't even imagine the work they put in, Stephen, editing this together, using those 20 seconds of zero gravity and just piecing that all together into one cohesive shot. It must have been amazing.
I mean, from the technical point of view as well, of the pressure to have everything that authentic and spot on to these chaps who were on as advisors to the film as well, to make sure that they weren't missing anything out. It must have been very high pressured to get everything right as well. But also the situation that these chaps found themselves in, back in the day, was horrendous. You've got to get back to 1960s technology here. It's just an amazing story. It's so inspirational as well. I know that Jim Lovell was one of the writers, and rightly so. He's got the first-hand experience of this, along with some of the other writers as well. And it's one of those films I've not seen in a long time now. It's the late Bill Paxton. I thought he was brilliant in this film as well. Sometimes I think he gets overlooked in this film because of the likes of Tom Hanks and Kevin Bacon, Gary Sinise, Ed Harris. Bill Paxton is this is one of his finest performances. And it's just one of those films I love to get back to every now and again. I've not seen it, as I said, in a long time, but it's one of the films that stay with you because of its real events, what happened. It doesn't really Hollywoodize the situation. It's not action-packed. It's not dramatical in that sense either. It's got plenty of drama, but real drama, because it's it was a historic moment for NASA and the human race. For people around that time, I think they remember this story very well, the situation that these guys found themselves in, the seriousness that they found themselves in, and just getting them back to Earth safely was nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah, it was. I think that's what makes this story so special, Steve. The fact that it was a botched mission to the moon, but it's in some ways more famous than the later missions to the moon, where a lot of people can't even name the people who went on the moon, but they'll name the likes of Jim Lovell because it was such a miracle tale of these guys getting round. They'd done a full orbit of the moon, and then they came back out, and just the trials and tribulations of getting back to Earth in one piece. Incredible to think this is based on a real story. It actually happened, and you're absolutely right. They didn't Hollywoodise it. I say that in my review. That this is often not the type of tale you would get in a film from Hollywood. They like to glamorise the big moments, the happy stories, happily ever after. And we do get that in this. We get a happily ever after, but it's a more darker, muckier side to the whole Apollo missions. So for them to do that and do it justice the way they did in this film, it's just, that's one of my favourite things. And you speak about authenticity, even the suits as well, Steve, and they actually got the real suits from that time period from NASA, and it just all adds into making it a very real and lived in experience. And just the cramped nature of it, the way they perfectly recreated the crafts, they did them half so they could get in and film the scenes. Just an amazing piece of cinema. Hats off to Dean Cundy who done the cinematography. This is a guy that's been involved in a whole host of brilliant films, and I can't finish talking about this film without giving an honourable mention to James Horner, the scorer of the film. I absolutely love the soundtrack in this film. The themes are amazing, very powerful, very stirring. It really does get your emotions going. But I digress. I've not got much more to say, Stephen. One of my favourite films from the 90s. I'm just going to reiterate that again. And I highly urge anybody who's maybe been under a rock for the last 20 years and not seen this film to go out and watch it, because you will not be disappointed. And that just brings us to the end of this week's episode of the Movie Burner Blog Rundown, where we discuss all the previous films in the last week in the Movie Burner Blog. We'd just like to thank you for listening to us once again, and we'll be back tomorrow with the Force Friday show.
Remember guys, if you enjoyed that episode, then do hit that like button, comment below, and maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. If you want to follow us on social media for all the latest updates from Movie Burner Entertainment, then we can be found on Twitter and Facebook at Movie Burners. You can also listen to us on Google Play and iTunes at the Movie Burner Podcast. And last but not least, if you want to access all the latest written reviews and the occasional article, then that can be found on our website at movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.